Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Watch. I'm your watcher Steve, and today I will be breaking down and giving you my honest review of the new movie No Hard Feelings. So let's begin. No Hard Feelings is a comedy film directed by Gene Stupnitsky, starring Jennifer Lawrence as Maddie Barker, a 32-year-old woman who works both as an Uber driver and a bartender in a small seaside town. Maddie is in a spot of bother as she gets her car repossessed due to the fact she is facing bankruptcy and owes a lot of property tax on her home, which she has inherited from her now deceased mother. Desperate to keep her home, she sees a, let's say, unique ad on Craigslist, where the parents of a 19-year-old boy are looking for someone to date their son. Maddie therefore answers the ad, as in return she would receive a car which she can then use to Uber people around and earn enough money to pay off her debts. So in a nutshell, if she can get in the pants of a 19-year-old boy, she gets to keep her house. Sounds pretty easy, right? Well, you'd be wrong. The boy in question is Percy. He's a very smart guy, but incredibly awkward. He has no experience with girls, drinking, partying, or sex, and his rich parents hope that dating a girl will boost his confidence before he heads off to Princeton. Since she is as desperate as she is, Maddie gets to it straight away and heads to the dog shelter Percy volunteers at and tries to seduce him and fails miserably. In a very funny and very awkward interaction between the two, Maddie basically throws herself at him, trying to get the job done as quickly as possible. We quickly realise the girl has no tact and has no sense of subtlety. After offering Percy a ride in a van, she ends up getting maced in the face, but does somehow, God knows how, secure a date with the lovable dog. So the two head out on a date, and we find out that Maddie hasn't been shy around the men in her town, as one approaches her and tries to make her jealous about his engagement. By a miracle, this red flag doesn't blow the date, and somehow she manages to get Percy to go skinny dipping with her. While naked in the water, a couple of drunks try to steal the pair's clothes, but Maddie has other ideas. Not afraid of anything, she races out of the water and beats the group, recovering the pair's clothes. Honestly, it was a pretty epic scene. If anyone can beat up people naked, it's Jennifer Lawrence. She was a badass in this one. So after this ordeal, Maddie ends up trying to leave without Percy, and he ends up on the bonnet of her car while she drives away. This must do it for the kid though, because later that night the two attempt to have sex, but unfortunately for Maddie and Percy, he developed large rashes on his back due to his nerves, so they can't go through with it. The two get to know each other better and go on various dates. They find out along the way that neither of them went to prom, so they decide to imitate one of their own and go out on a date at a fancy restaurant, during which Percy plays the piano and sings beautifully for Maddie. While there, he also meets a schoolgirl friend who invites him to a party. Maddie and Percy end up having a disagreement about their long-term plans, and Percy heads to the party. Maddie becomes very protective of him and breaks down a door to get to him, scaring the hell out of the girl Percy is with. She also helps Percy as he feels ill from drinking and taking ibuprofen, only to end up with him accidentally punching her in the throat. And it all goes downhill from here for the pair, as he becomes too attached to Maddie and wants to stay with her. Percy's parents try to call off the whole thing, only for Percy to overhear the conversation and find out the truth. Percy decides to get a little revenge and destroys the car promised to Maddie, but she still manages to use it as an Uber driver and pay off her debts. Maddie also decides to sell her house to her pregnant friends and move to California. The two reunite at a Princeton mixer, with Maddie ending up on the bonnet of Percy's car this time. And after a wild drive where the car ends up in the ocean, the two decide to stay friends. Maddie drives Percy to Princeton and adopts one of the dogs from the shelter, both moving on with their lives. The end. I really enjoyed this film. It was a great mix of comedy and awkwardness, where it didn't go too far with either. It had just the right amount of drama, and it didn't go down the same route of the two stars ending up together, which I thought was quite refreshing. The two obviously didn't belong together, but you could feel the connection that had grown between them throughout the events of the film. So I at least was left satisfied with them ending as good friends. Jennifer Lawrence was great in this, and the interaction between her and her co-star Andrew Barth Feldman was spot on. Andrew played awkward really well, and the two just gelled. One thing that I think the film will become a bit famous for is its nude scene with Jennifer Lawrence, but to be honest, I thought it was done beautifully. I didn't get the impression it was done just for the sake of seeing her naked, but it was actually relevant to the story. I bet she read the script and thought that it sounded like a ton of fun. Can you imagine getting beaten to a pulp by a naked lady like that? I doubt you'd be telling your friends about it afterwards, that's for sure. And it would have been so fun to film too, I think. If anything, I'd say the scene was more empowering to women. I really hope people manage to look beyond that scene, because the film was seriously a lot of fun. I wasn't bored once, the pacing was good throughout, the story was original and kept me engaged, the comedy was spot on, the cast were great, and I would honestly go back to watch this one again. I know rom-coms aren't for everyone, but I highly recommend seeing this one. And I don't know if I'd even call this a rom-com, because really, I don't think it is. No one ends up with anyone, and there really isn't all that much romance. I think it's just a story about a guy becoming more confident and self-assured through the help of an older woman, who herself finds the confidence through him to move on with her own life and leave the small town she calls home, all through the process of the two becoming friends. If you haven't seen it already and you've got a chance and you just want to watch a light-hearted, down-to-earth comedy, I think this is the one for you. Go see it and let me know what you think. But that's it from me this time, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.